Welcome, everybody. I'm Andy Rambakis, president of the Wagner Society of Northern California. Welcome to today's Zoom webinar, and happy Valentine's Day to everybody. Um, while we're waiting for people to log in, I'm going to be making a few announcements. First of all, we have 27 members from our society who will be attending the ring cycle in Milan, first week of March. And there are several members from New York also coming. So we will be happy to have the camaraderie with the various Wagner societies, especially between San Francisco and New York. We're going to have plenty of good company there. Um, there are 11 of our members going to Bayreuth. At first, we didn't think we were going to get any tickets at all, but fortunately, we ended up getting 11, and we have 11 members going to the second cycle in Bayreuth. For those of you who have not yet renewed your membership, please do so before the end of February. Our bylaws require us to drop you from our roster if you've not paid your renewal by then. If you're not sure if you've renewed, I'm going to be sending out an email targeted specifically just to those who have not renewed. So if you receive that email, it means that you have not renewed. Please do so immediately. Otherwise, you'll not only be dropped from our roster, but you will be forever denied entry into Valhalla. Oh, you don't want that. Far as just a brief rundown of our upcoming meetings. In March, we have an in-person meeting at the Jewish Community Center featuring Maestro Leo Hilar, who's going to return with another fascinating lecture to the Society. April 25th, we have a Zoom meeting featuring Erika Miner, who's going to talk about Wagner and Berlioz. May, we have our Wagner birthday party. June 6th, Saturday, June 6th, we have another Zoom session in honor of Pride Month featuring Holden Madogamy, who is a tenor who recently sang the role of Mima in London, and he's going to be talking about the transformation of Mima. June, we also have a second Zoom meeting the week later, June 13th, featuring John Muller, who is a professor at the Juilliard School of Music, who's going to be talking about Strauss and Wagner. That's in honor of the San Francisco opera season, which will feature an opera of Electra, feature Strauss's opera Electra in the month of June. July 11th, our very own David Kanega will be returning, giving us a lecture on California and Wagner, specifically around the time of the Gold Rush. August, our members are going to Bayreuth. We will not have a meeting. September and October is still to be announced. November, we are featuring a Zoom session by author Paul Heisey, who will be talking about how Elsa showed Wagner the way to Siegfried. December, we have our Cosima meeting. Today's meeting, as I said, today's Valentine's Day. And a little known fact that you may not know that Wagner absolutely detested Valentine's Day. It's not mentioned in even the 4-volume biography, but he detested it. And you know why? Because every time that he tried to write a simple love note, it turned into a lengthy 4-night opera cycle about destiny, betrayal, and a cursed engagement ring. So I'm glad that all of you decide to show up on Valentine's Day, but I'm not sure if Wagner himself will. Today's lecture, I'm thrilled to welcome Peter Phillips, who is the president of the New York Wagner Society. He will be discussing his book, Performing Wagner, A Singer's Perspective on the Major Tenor Roles, which he co-authored with the world-renowned heldentenor Stefan Gould, who unfortunately met with an untimely death in 2023. Peter graduated from Dartmouth College, cum laude, where he was awarded the Hyman Award in Creative Arts. He trained as an actor at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. He made his Broadway debut as Nugget in Equus with Anthony Perkins. And during his acting career, he appeared in Macbeth with Nicole Williamson, Henry V with Meryl Streep, Cherry Orchard with Irene Worth, the TV film Stone Pillow with Lucille Ball, and a recurring role in ABC TV's All My Children. He also directed off Broadway and in university theater, including La Boheme at Brooklyn Opera and Sweeney Todd at the University of Michigan. He later trained as an attorney and now practices as a mediator and arbitrator, as well as serving as the director of the ADR skills program at New York Law School. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome Peter Phillips. Peter, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Andy. My acting experience was long enough ago that listening to you recite it almost seems like somebody I'd like to meet one day, rather than rather than it's being me. But if people will give me just a chance here, I like so many people, I am wanting to share a PowerPoint. And I just want to bring that up. Is that clear to everyone? Andy, could you let me know whether that PowerPoint is visible?
Peter, this is Emma. It is good.
Good, excellent.
Yeah.
Uh, the origin of this project that Stefan and I undertook was, like so many things, the pandemic. Uh, I had met Stefan in 2006 in Bayreuth, which was when he first did a ring cycle, singing the role of Siegfried, and I had just admired it tremendously. He did not. He thought that it was unsuccessful, and we argued about that for quite a while. As his career continued, he added roles and roles and became quite well known and a very busy heldentenor. And the last role that he learned was Tristan. Uh, he he swore that he would never again do a premiere of a role in a place like Bayreuth where everyone is watching him. So instead, he did his first Tristan at in Tokyo. And as you could imagine, it was pretty impactful. He realized that he was okay with this, and he began to accept gigs in Berlin and in Bayreuth and in Covent Garden, singing Tristan. Then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, all of his contracts were canceled. And he very reasonably concluded that that was it for him. He was, I think, 59 in 2020. He didn't see a way that his contracts would be renewed. And he didn't see a way that he would be able to sing that role again, at least not until he was in his mid 60s, and probably that wasn't going to work. And in candor, he became not just sad, he became really quite bitter and very angry, angry at fate, angry at God, angry at any impresario who canceled one of his gigs. And I said to him, look, why don't we get on Zoom together? He lived in Chesapeake, Virginia, near Newport News and Virginia Beach, and I said, why don't we get on Zoom together and you can talk about each of the roles uh, by way of theater, not by way of music. I'm not talking about a project where you say My Life and Times or famous people I have known or memoirs of a famous tenor. I'm talking about what is it like actually to prepare and perform in a coherent manner Tannhäuser or Tristan or Parsifal. It's the lead role, and a lot of the story depends on your ability to pull this off. What happens in the role? He responded to that extraordinarily enthusiastically, and that's because he thought like an actor. He didn't think like a singer. He knew how to sing. He thought like a performer, and the roles that he was being asked to do were more than typically demanding with respect to dramatic action. So over a series of months, we had conversations that I transcribed, going through each role, including things like Mima. uh, and what happens in the play and his view anyway, after having done these roles so many times in so many different um, productions, his view of what it's like actually to prepare that character and perform Wagner. It was a lot of fun. By the time we were finished, I found a publisher in London to do it. And that summer, um, Stefan was cast in Bayreuth to sing Tristan, the Siegfried and Götterdämmerung, and Tannhäuser. So things were back in the groove again. We were back in a post-COVID situation where he could take a swing at the bat, particularly with Tristan. And during rehearsals, he reported that he had a hard time with his energy and that he had difficulty physically. And within 10 days or so, it became clear that he was very ill indeed. And he resigned his position, came back to Virginia, and died in just a few weeks. I was never able to give him a copy of this book. But he read the book uh, in manuscript and was very pleased with it. And my friendship with him through the writing of this book was one of the best things that ever happened to me in my life. So it's with a certain amount of enthusiasm that I want to share that experience with you. Before we start, all right, I said that Stefan approached his work as an actor. Uh, when I first came across Wagner, I was still in high school, and my old brother brought home the Schulte recording of Götterdämmerung. This is Christmas of 1966, and he played me side 12, and I was following this thing and thinking, now, how do you stage that? How do you get the pyre and the fire and the flood and the how would that be done? Um, and Wagner brings these questions up, not simply because he wrote complicated stagings, but because he wrote stagings. He didn't write for the orchestra. He didn't write for the singer. He wrote for the theater, and all, with very few exceptions. He didn't write quartets, he didn't write symphonies, at least not as a mature artist. He didn't write overtures. He didn't write sonatas, no concerti. He wrote for the theater. So the question then arises, is opera a form of music where the performers advance the narrative and recitative and then, pause and convey their emotions in aria, or is opera a form of theater? A form of theater in which most or all of the words are sung instead of spoken. The question becomes sharp only if you're a performer. It's not a question of mere theory. If you're being paid to actually do this thing in front of 2,900 people with 108 instrumentalists between you and your audience, you have to make a certain number of decisions. And it's the decisions that Stefan made that were consistent with the second option. Stefan thought that he was an actor. And indeed, he was an actor. His first gigs were in musical theater. And when he tried to do opera, it wasn't necessarily very successful because the Fach that he had as a young man was indeterminate, and he wasn't encouraged to fit in. He did a lot of performances of Phantom of the Opera before he did any performance of Verdi or Mozart or Wagner. So, just to make sure that we all know what actors do, all right? Here are just some general guides that most actors, I think, would agree to. The first thing you do once you're cast is to look at the show and say, what's the action of this play? What is the thing that happens in this play? What story is being told? In Macbeth, this is the story of how Scotland challenged and vanquished a usurper, as an assassin. Yeah, it's how the lords or the regal community resisted a threat to their lives by a maniacally ambitious member of the group, someone who was willing to kill in order to get power. That's what happens in the play. Then you say to yourself, okay, well, I'm playing Macduff, I'm playing Malcolm, I'm playing Banquo, I'm playing Lady Macbeth. Oh, how do I contribute to that action? What happens that my character it initiates in the scenes in which I'm involved? Why am I there? What contribution do I make? Do I cause a problem, or do I remedy a problem, or what is it that I actually do? How do I contribute to the advancement of the action? And what do I need? Why do I walk on stage? I walk on stage for a reason. What is the reason? What's the best, most meaty, sexiest choice I can make in terms of why it is that I came on stage, and what gets in my way? What are the obstacles that are between me and the thing that I want? Then we come to the really exciting question, which is, what am I willing to risk? How important is it to me? Often during rehearsal, the director might say to the actor, would you up the stakes a little bit? Would you up it, goose it, bring it up? By which is meant, be more daring with respect to what your character is willing to put on the table. Are you willing to bet the whole farm on this one? Then you have the production of the play becomes full of electricity and excitement, and people getting in each other's way, and people figuring out how to get over the obstacles that are in front of them. Now, there's one kind of rule that most actors would adopt in the course of this analysis, right? Which is that any word that ends in ly is banished. You're not allowed to say, I do this gracefully, or I do this heroically, or I do this slyly, or you just do it. All right. you do the action and you say the words and you encounter people the way you do. And during rehearsal, something might arise, but you don't play Wotan godlike. You play Wotan as someone who is concerned about Albrecht and needs his power and is willing to sacrifice his son and is willing to sacrifice his daughter in order to get that. Now, that is what most actors would consider to be an exciting way to approach that role. And it's up to the costume designer if he wants to give you a crown or, do it in a king-like or a godlike way. But generally speaking, when you approach a role, any LY that you have in your mind, you try to dispel it so that the performance that you're giving is a performance that's generated from the need of the action of the play and the things that you contribute to that action and the obstacles that you face. So that in 5 minutes is the way Stefan approached acting. It wasn't coming on as a musician and standing where the director told you and hitting your high B flat. It was this kind of analysis, and it made talking to him about Lohengrin or about Erik or especially about Siegfried fascinating, absolutely fascinating. It was just one of the most exciting experiences that I've had connected with Wagner. So what I'd like to do is share with you his analysis of the role of Tannhäuser. And on the basis of that, maybe, I can, if you have some thoughts or questions, we can entertain those. And then I'd like to go through the role of Siegfried. Not Siegfried, but Siegfried and Gutterdammerl. And because these are two roles in which I think his insights were particularly pointed and particularly exciting. Tannhäuser, the longest role for a tenor that he wrote, by the way. It's just grueling. The very first thing it's a tough role, and he started to sing it when he was young, and he was pretty intimidated by it. Stefan was what they call in the South a PK, a preacher's kid. Stefan's dad was a preacher. And unlike most PKs, PKs have in the South anyway, they have a reputation for being rascals, being imps. They respond to their dad by getting in trouble and, shoplifting and driving the car too fast and things like that. Stefan never did, at least not to admit it. He was indeed a very devout Christian. And a lot of his imagination and his soul were influenced by his beliefs. So when he first seriously looked at Tannhäuser, he had three major reactions to the idea of performing them. The first one was that it was a professional risk. He was not immune to trying to build a successful career as a young tenor. As I said, he wasn't exactly Jonas Kaufmann when he started off, and he didn't want to make a mistake. And starting with Tannhäuser is a classic mistake. It's the sort of role that you're just opening yourself up for failure. The technical demands of the role and the physical fatigue of having to do the role. You're on stage all of Act One, pretty much all of Act Two, and 60% of Act Three. And you're not on stage watching people. You're on stage belting it out, and it's a toughie. So the first question was, I'm risking if I actually learn and perform this role. Uh, the second reaction he had was that it was carnal. He was shocked by the opening of the play, and he was struck by how so much of what Tannhäuser does, he does in order to uh, have sex. So much of what Tannhäuser does, it has to do with uh, just physical sex, which I don't mean to say he blushed, but he certainly noticed that as a presenting issue in Tannhäuser. And the third one was that he thought it was anti-Catholic. He was surprised how blatantly the uh, play relied upon uh, uh, holding up Catholicism as as a bad thing, as the villain of the piece. Indeed, if you really look at the plot, I guess if there is a villain other than Tannhäuser's own flaws himself, the real villain is the Pope. He's just a bad guy. And the Catholic world in which Tannhäuser takes place is not an attractive one. So you get into actually preparing the role, and your first scene has to do with a post coitus conversation and argument with the god of carnal love, Venus. And what you want to do is stop it. Now, that's a lot to chew on, considering the curtain just went up. And you have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? The action of the first scene seems to be, I want to get out of here, and the question is why. But then again, I mean, why did he want to leave Ortberg in the first place? He seems to be a bit of a restless guy. He seems to be uncomfortable where he is, but he's also uncomfortable where he used to be. I don't know if you remember, but the Landgrave during the second scene um, says to Tannhäuser, I don't want to hear this anymore. You know what I mean? You're welcome to come back, but no more of this, beef and all this kind of arguments and everything that you used to give. He apparently had a terrible rep in Wartburg, left. Now he went to Venusberg and he wants to leave. So you you say to yourself, this is kind of like Peter Grimes. This is kind of like one of those guys who just doesn't fit, just doesn't feel comfortable. Uh, there are such people, and Peter Grimes was a role that Stefan felt very close to. And he saw a link between Tannhäuser's condition as a human being and Peter Grimes. It made him feel more comfortable in Tannhäuser's skin to remember Peter Grimes. So he realized after a while that there's a kind of default place for Tannhäuser, which is I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. Even if it's a place that you chose, eventually what's going to happen is I'll be all right if I can just get out of this room. All right, curtain up. Curtain up. Here you are lying with her. What do you first say, and why do you say it, and what do you want, and what are you willing to risk, and what's in the way? Uh, and he realized what I need to do is get out of this room. How am I going to do that? I can't turn around and walk out. She has to throw me out. Apparently, there's in the text, it looks like you don't have the option just to leave. She has to throw him out. She has to sort of agree to his leaving, which So he realizes, okay, great. This is the first scene. First scene is I'm going to say what I need to say in order to get her so pissed off that she throws me out, which he does. And the first scene, if you ever watch Stephen Gould play Tannhäuser, it's as clear as a bell. That's exactly what happens. That's exactly what happens. And you see it through his eyes and you realize, well, this is straightforward, isn't it? This is this is something that I can easily accomplish. Now, the difficulty is that you wake up and here is this shepherd playing a pipe, and all of these horrible people are standing around saying, "Oh, good to see you again." Um, Now it happens. It's not as if he chose to come to Wartburg, it's that he chose to leave Venusberg. So he indeed he says, "Nice to see you guys. I'm out of here." But if you recall, one thing makes him decide to stay, and that is Elizabeth. That gets us through Act One, and that gets us to Act Two. As far as Stefan is concerned, as long as you do the thinking, as long as you do the analysis clearly, Wagner gives you everything you need. Boom, 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 boom. You can go ahead and do Act One. Act Two is a little bit more challenging because it becomes clear that the entire motivating relationship for this guy is his girlfriend Elizabeth, and Elizabeth is not exactly Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm. Uh, for one thing, I think that Stefan had real doubts that she is a virgin. I think Stefan assumed, frankly, that before he left, the two of them had shared experiences, and they are able in that first duet in the beginning of Act Two to act on that. She was quite angry that he left her, and he needs her, needs her. In a way, at that point, all the character wants is Elizabeth. And he says to her, help me, help me um, resolve the confusion that is in my heart. And one of the reasons is because he has always done flee from decision making. I need to get out of here. Elizabeth is the only time that he's ever had a go-to decision. He's making decisions to stay because he wants this. He actually wants it. Whereas every time in his life before, he's made decisions to get the hell out of here. This is new to him, and it's on the boil, and it makes him uncertain, and it makes him excited. Of course, unfortunately, then all these people start coming on stage, and the king is doing this, and Elizabeth doing this, and everybody's singing along, and so he's suddenly gone from a private place to a public place. What's going on? Well, there's going to be a song contest. What is the song contest going to be about? Love. Yeah. Oh, come on. That's something that Tannhäuser knows quite a bit about. Indeed, through Venus's good offices, I think he probably knows more about lovemaking than pretty much anybody. And as the song contest goes on, it becomes less and less endurable because all these people, right, are not talking about love. They're talking about honor and they're talking about expectations and they're talking about being admired in the community and they're talking about treating other people nicely and chivalry. None of this, none of this makes any sense, of course, to Tannhäuser. And uh, being in some ways, I guess, a guy who is difficult for him to keep his mouth shut, he says so. You have this tremendous conflict, which is the conflict at the heart of the play. Are we looking for salvation or are we looking for a libertine expression of human existence? And when it becomes evident, everybody, all the women leave except for Elizabeth. This made a huge impact on Stefan when he realized that Elizabeth remained. Uh, all the women leave but her. And the more he did the role, the more moved he was by her decision to stay and be with him when when clearly the men were ready to do bad things to him. Uh, but she stopped them and she took control of the action of the play uh, on her terms and consistent with the terms of her father and with the community. But Elizabeth was the one who saved him from death, and Elizabeth's the one who charted the way forward. Now, he always felt regret at that point in the play, but he didn't ever feel that he regretted the way he behaved. He didn't feel that he regretted the songs that he sang or the fact that he was with a bunch of idiots who didn't know what they were talking about. He didn't regret any of that. He didn't regret confessing his time with Venus. What he regretted was that he hurt her. He's clearly hurt her. And that was the opposite of what he intended, but he did it. And he just felt brokenhearted about that and wanted to fix it. It is she who says, go to Rome, nach Rome. He doesn't want to go to Rome. I mean, he doesn't want to. It is Rome. Come on, give me a break. But he needs her, and the only way to get her is to go to Rome. So his last words in Act Two are nach Rome, which Stefan always understood to mean nach Elizabeth. Uh, he never sees her again. He has an experience off stage that is absolutely shattering. He goes to the Pope. Everybody else goes to the Pope. Pope does all this stuff. Pope says, but ultimately what the Pope says is, I'm going to forgive everybody in this room except you. You, not forgiven. You're special. You're different. I'll forgive everybody, but not you. If he needed Rome in order to get Elizabeth and he can't have Rome, what is left? He can't stay in Venusberg. He can't stay in Wartburg. There is nothing for him in Rome. And where the question could be asked, why do I take my next breath? What's the next thing? Why should I want to wake up tomorrow morning? Elizabeth points him the way. When he sees Elizabeth, she's a corpse. And he realizes, you're so right. You're so right. She proves the Pope wrong and dies, and he follows her example and dies. It's remarkable, really, what Wagner wrote. It isn't that he stabs himself or shoots himself or throws himself off a precipice, right? Like Senta. He just dies. He just stops. And that's the end of the play. And it's the end that if you go right back to where the curtain came up and you're lying next to Venus, knowing you got to get out of here, all the decisions that you make as an actor all lead to this moment, which is that you will your death and you experience your death. Everything serves that end, every choice you make. And his conclusion was, he said, the point of the work for those brave enough to confront it is this: at the end of the rainbow, there's nothing. We should talk less of death and more of a transmutation into a different form. That's the way Stefan thought about Tannhäuser. I hope that you'll find that as interesting as I do. And I'd just like to take a quick break here, if I can, to ask if anybody has any thoughts or any questions, and then I'll go ahead and proceed through to Siegfried.
Yeah. I forgot to mention, anybody who does have questions, you can just click on the Q&A at the bottom. At the moment, we don't have anybody with any questions.
All right. If in the course of this something pops up, I'd love to have a conversation about it. Let's just bull our way through then and look at Siegfried in Götterdämmerung. It was one of the great successes that was in Stefan's career, the role of Siegfried. And Siegfried in the play Siegfried has a very clear arc. The arc of Tannhäuser may be a little more complicated, but it too, if you look at it through Stefan's eyes, is pretty clear. It's pretty followable, and it's something that an actor can act. Now, Siegfried in Götterdämmerung, by contrast, soon after undertaking it and working on it, he realized that no, it's very poorly written. It is a seriously flawed piece of writing, and really there is not a way to act it. And he made these observations. Okay, first thing you do is you're on the fells, you come out of a cave, and you have a love duet about leaving. Now, that is not what most love duets are about. Usually a love duet is about staying. Indeed, it's about staying, with sparkles. But this love duet is prompted by the fact that he's out of here. Fine. Why is he out of here? Where is he going? Very unclear in the text. He's off to do heroic deeds or something. I don't know. It's but in one way or the other, what they're singing about is the fact that he's gone and she's going to stay, right? So, why is this okay with her? He seems not to apologize in the least. You know what I mean? I'm gone. See you later. Now, my wife has been known to object a little. Andy and I, met when we were both in Leipzig. And Leipzig, I was away from home for like 3 weeks, solely in order to see a lot of Wagner. And Elaine, my wife, had a few things to say about that choice, Apparently it's okay with Brunhilde. She's all right. Off you go. When will I be back? No idea. How long have they been in the cave? No idea. It's not in the text. Did he go through the fire and kiss her and make love to her for the first time the night before? Is this like the morning after? Or is it, as most people assume, quite a while? Not in the text, right? Why don't they both go and do heroic deeds? I mean, God knows she knows how to do heroic deeds. Uh, but apparently not. She's going to stay home or stay in a cave, and he is going to do heroic deeds by himself. Now, everybody else in the ring has kids, and the kids are a critical uh, point forward. Okay, Wotan's children, the Valkyries, the Volsungs, these are critical. You know, the fact that Wotan has children is a driving force in the play. Same with Erda. Siegmund and Sieglinde, of course, right? Their child. Albrecht's child. The idea of intergenerational uh, action is critical to the play. But of all people who are childless, it's these two. The hero and heroine, you would say, of the entire ring. Where are the kids? Why does she give him the horse? Why does he take the horse? Not in the text. These are things that Stefan raised only because he has to talk about them. He has lines where he says, "Thanks for the horse." Do you know what I mean? Or "See you later." So he has to sing lines that implicate these questions, but Wagner failed to write any coherent answer that would prompt them. Off he goes with nothing having been accomplished as far as the actor is concerned. All you know is that you leave stage left. Why to go where to go, none of that. None of that is in the text. Fine. Okay. We're in now the Rhine journey. Now, how long does the Rhine journey take? Because you're about to re-enter, right? Now, how long has it been? Hmm. Apparently quite a long time because Hagen has heard about Siegfried. Siegfried, according to Hagen, has done mighty deeds, right? So you've been on the Rhine with Grana long enough to do mighty deeds and to sort of get a reputation. And indeed, Siegfried has heard about the Giebelungs, and they have a reputation. And so enough time has passed that people have built and talked about each other at some point. But why does Siegfried decide to get off the boat and end the journey? Why does he visit the Giebelung Hall? Why does Siegfried walk on stage? What is it, going back to the rubric of acting, right? What does Siegfried want from Gunther? Unclear. What he says is fight with me or be my friend. Now, uh, I'm glad that Stefan got paid to say that because if I got paid to say it, I would shrink. I don't know. I don't know what he's trying to accomplish by saying fight with me or be my friend. It doesn't, and all the questions that I've just asked sort of depend on it. Tell me why it is that I'm walking on stage, and it's not in the text. Okay. Now, has Siegfried been chased? Probably not. Probably not. Certainly, the way he treats Gutrun, even before the potion, suggests that monogamy is not been high on Siegfried's list, right? And weirdly, what Stefan called the potion instant virginity, that it was this sort of thing that everything in your past sexually, you just can't remember a thing about it. And now all of a sudden you're 15 and in the back seat of the car. Now we get to some real problems, though. The potion. The potion clearly makes him forget about Brunhilde. But the potion apparently also makes him forget about the fact that he climbed a mountain and went through fire. If you remember, Hagen and Gunther say there's this lady who you have to walk through fire in order to get to, and he goes, "Oh, that's no, no." Okay, so The potion apparently does more than make you forget women, but what more it does is up to question. And it's a problem that the actor playing Siegfried is going to have throughout the entire show. What is it you remember? And what is it that you don't remember? Because you act upon it. You are required in the course of a play to make decisions about what do you remember and what don't you. And this is where all of a sudden Stefan realized he was playing a role that that really wasn't very nice. Um, how can he walk on stage at the end of Act One and see Brunhilde and Brunhilde not say, Siegfried, so nice to see you again, which in fact she does because she realized somebody's walking through the fire and only Siegfried can walk through the fire. Siegfried, take that silly mask off, say, nice to see you back again. But that isn't what happens, right? Now, what he says to Gunther and Gutrun before he leaves Gibson Hall is, I'll tell you what I'll do. The deal is going to be this. I will lie. I will put on a costume and I will force this woman into sexual slavery against her will, okay, on your behalf. And after I enslave her, I'll hand her over to you. And the deal is then that you will let me bed your sister. Deal, 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 deal. Now, the potion doesn't make him do that. Who does that? Who does that kind of thing? Who thinks that way? Why does Siegfried take the ring from her? What does he want with the ring? What's he going to do with the ring? I don't know, but it's a big deal, right? He has to not only take the ring, he has to wrestle her with it, he has to not give it back to her, and he has to say, I got the ring now. Why is that going on? What does he intend to do with this ring? Does he remember the ring? Apparently not. This is another reason why the potion is such a problem, right? One way or the other, he decides she shouldn't have the ring. He should have the ring. So he then denies taking the ring from her. Now he knows he took the ring from her, right? The potion has nothing to do with it. He knows that he took the ring from her yesterday before they spent the night in the cave together. But he keeps it. He just lies to people about it. Why doesn't he give it to Gunther if it's her ring, right? He then apologizes and says, sorry that she recognized me. The Tarnhelm would have slipped. What do you mean the Tarnhelm slipped and she recognized you? If the Tarnhelm hadn't slipped, she wouldn't have recognized you? I don't know. He tells the crowd he never saw her before in his life. This is getting very difficult. He says that they never made love, referring to last night. She says they made love all the time, 3 times a day. Now, she's referring to when they used to live in a cave together. Come on, give me a break. They're going to argue about this? And we're going to say somehow this is a great tragic event like Oedipus or Hamlet or something like that. They're arguing about what slept with her means. That's farce or melodrama. It's not tragedy, and it puts the actor in a very awkward position, right? So here we are at the end of Act Two, and where are we? If you're the actor, you took the ring. You tell people that you have the ring, but you got the ring from a dragon. That's not true. He doesn't even say, well, I found it on the street and I just picked it up. He says he got it from a dragon. Come on. We just saw him take it from her. He just makes stuff up. Do you know what I mean? So by the time you get to the trio, Stefan confessed to being as confused as he'd ever been on stage. Either his memory is like selectively coming back with respect to the dragon, or he's realizing maybe the ring used to be mine, then I gave it to her, but he can't realize that because he doesn't remember meeting her before, and and he apologizes to Gunther for taking the ring, but won't give the ring back to Gunther. It's a mess. It's a real mess. The only choice you could make is he's a liar. The only really consistent, viable thing is to embrace the fact that he makes stuff up. If you ask him a question, he'll say whatever pops into his mind, right? And what he does is a lot of self-defeating choices. Now, the trouble that Stefan had with that is that doesn't help matters because the action of the entire ring, uh, having a Siegfried that is that much of a jerk, is and a liar and a thief and oversexed and I don't know all the stuff that comes with it. So what he had to do was just drop out, just sing. Uh, he said, "Look, when you encounter a role where the exploration is just stymied, right? Just trust the author. It makes sense enough. Sing it. Just sing it. Just sing it and come in on cue. I believe me, I've done that myself. Just don't worry about it. Just come in on cue and go. And if you have stuff like Wagner going on, everything will be okay. Don't worry about it. Just go. It'll take care of itself. Everybody else thinks you're wonderful. At the end of the show, Brunhilde says you're fabulous, you're a hero. She's going to hop on a horse and burn herself to death on account of you. The love is the thing that is going to take care of everything. Wotan and the old way of reality and the old way of governance and morality is going to be destroyed, and it's going to be replaced by human love, is typified by the love between Siegfried and Brunhilde. So just go ahead and do it. It's a very disconcerting analysis, but it sure is exciting for me. Uh, that's pretty much the content of what I wanted to share with you, except that I wanted to take a minute to try to um, have you feel a lot of what I felt in my friendship with really a remarkable artist. Um, he was a PK and he never lost it. He never lost his faith. He never lost the way of looking at life that was religiously informed. He really believed it. When he was still in Germany and was waiting to find a way to get back uh, home, and he knew that he was dying, I said to him in a Zoom, "Are you scared?" And he said, "What good is faith unless it's tested?" Fantastic. He uh, he said to his sister, who lives there in Chesapeake, about his funeral. Uh, he said, just the usual stuff, preaching and teaching. That's what he wanted. And I attended his memorial service. Indeed, that's what he got. I drove down to see him about 10 days before he died. We had a really terrific meal of this fish joint that he enjoyed going to with his sister. And we just went back to his house and sat next to each other. And we didn't talk very much. Um, wasn't that much to talk about. And he said, I've seen Jesus, I've seen Jesus. He's gonna take me. He said, I know that my Redeemer liveth. And it was just one of the most extraordinary things to be with somebody who, it wasn't an article of faith anymore, do you know? He just knew. He just knew that his Redeemer liveth. At his memorial, they played this wonderful recording, and I wanted to play it for you, just by way of, as I say, sharing a really extraordinary guy.
In the shadow with the Savior I have trod. Sweet indeed have been the lessons since I've walked alone with God. I have seen him, I have known him, for he deigns to walk with me, and the glory of his presence will be
So, Peter, thank you very much for a very excellent talk. This is absolutely fascinating. So, thank you very, very much.
It's my pleasure.
We do have a couple of questions. I'm going to start out first myself, though, with a question because I'm sure many of our members are wondering this. Where can they buy your book?
If you go on Amazon, you'll find it. But the trouble is, the publisher is in Britain, and it's too expensive. So the Wagner Society of New York bought a bunch of copies, and you can get it at a only extravagant price rather than a ridiculous price. By the website is wagnersociety.ny.org, and up there it has a thing saying shop. If you go to the shop there, you can uh, you can buy a copy of the book. We can mail it here in the United States. So anybody who would like a copy, you can you can go to the website and get it there.
Great, thank you. We do have a question from Stephen Schladover, who is one of the members of our board. And the question reads, for an actor with such strong views about the characters he was portraying, how did Stefan contend with stage directors who radically rewrote the scenarios of librettos and changed the characters?
Yeah, yeah. We have a whole chapter on that. I mean, as you can imagine, that's particularly interesting to me because I've directed operas and plays, and yeah, and I've also really been pissed off at some of the productions that I've seen. His view was that he was going to live for a long time. He thought he was going to live longer than he did, but he was going to have a long career, and any production he was in that taught him something he wanted to do, period. It wasn't his job, right, to decide whether the people that he is working with are good or bad singers or good or bad designers or good or bad directors. His job was learn more about Tannhäuser, learn more about Tristan. And any rehearsal period or any director's insight that would help him learn, how to develop a more sophisticated understanding, he wanted to do that. And he encouraged other artists the same way. Don't be judgmental. Anything that forces you to rethink or that teaches you something new, that's what you ought to be doing.
Great. Um, I find your comments interesting about the fact that Stefan being religious and having to tackle the role of Tannhäuser. I recall actually John Vickers apparently had the same dilemma. John Vickers was also a very religious person and apparently tackled Tannhäuser fairly late in his career for those very same
Yeah,
reasons.
you should.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Vickers. Well, I don't know how to. I don't know why Vickers decided not to play certain roles because he had religious objection to them, and why Stefan did not. I don't know how to address that conundrum. I don't think that a lot of people who worked with Stefan realized how deeply religious he was. Uh, I'm a Quaker, and the idea of somebody who was as traditionally old-fashioned, Christian the way Stefan was, I didn't even know that about him until we started to work together in the book. You know what I mean? It wasn't something that he carried on stage with him. Uh, it was something that it was even deeper than that. It was he really? I was just terribly impressed by it.
And then not so much a question, but a statement from John Chilcott, who mentions that he saw Stefan in the 2008 Tankard Doors production in Bayreuth, where um, Siegfried dies in the gutter. And, there was obviously some tension probably going through Stefan's mind at that time as to how to play that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're asked to do a lot of, the only time that he talked, and that was the Doors production was the one that I first saw him in. And The only thing he said about that was, it was my first Siegfried, and I'm a fat guy, so what I did was lose like 35 pounds. And the first thing that they did once I got to rehearsal was give me a fat suit.
That's funny. So let me just see if there are any other questions. No, that appears to be the no other questions at this point in time. I just want to make just a commentary. It's going off on a bit of a tangent here, but from being a physician myself, of course, I always look at things from a medical perspective, and I view Stefan's death, unfortunately, I mean, it's unfortunate under any circumstances, but I view him as actually a victim of COVID because what has been found in the intervening years is that there have been some relatively very rare cancers that have become much more prominent during the COVID era. And the type of cancer he had is one of those.
That's
So
right.
I view him personally as a victim of COVID, and secondarily as a victim of cancer. But had it not been for COVID, he might still be around with us.
And maybe so. Certainly his cancer was one that it has been quite rare, and yet amazingly, he's the third friend of mine who died from that cancer.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, yeah. So, let's check. Oh, let's see. It's no.
Emma, did you have a thought?
Yes, I have a question. Also, we have two more questions in the Q&A, and I will ask my question now using my position here, not to ask it directly. I always considered Wagner being rather anti-Catholic, and you actually affirmed my thought on that. It's all about carnal sin and the punishment associated with it. It's Tannhäuser. It is Siegfried too, okay, with all these inconsistencies in Gotterdammerung. He's just a cad, and whom he slept with, we don't know still. And also the last opera, Parsifal, where the cardinal sin is at the center of it. It was for it that Amfortas was so viciously punished. And the rest of the brothers there, the members of this order, actually attack him and demand blood and everything from him, blood and tear. And the cruelty of all this shines in Parsifal, and it's the cruelty of the Catholic rite. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
Would you
yeah.
agree with that?
No, it's not nutty. Certainly Wagner was sex obsessed, wasn't he, in his works? There isn't you compare it to Moliere or even Eugene O'Neill or Ibsen, uh, and you don't get plays that are quite as based on male sexual urge as you do with Wagner.
Yeah, agreed.
So there are a few more questions that have come up. Um, Deborah Marion asking, did Stefan sing while he was ill? You know,
No.
okay, okay.
Well, I mean, he was actively ill for only 8 or 9 weeks, so
I see.
but he had a very hard time. Uh, he couldn't breathe well. He couldn't take the kind of breath that he was used to taking, and then within days he couldn't really walk very well.
Mhm. Question from Ulrich Wagner. This is more of a subjective, asking for more of your subjective opinion than anything. Do you agree with certain critics who have seen a decline in the quality of singing in Bayreuth during the last 25 years?
No idea. I have no idea. Um, I used to try to fake my way into having musical opinions, but really, I'm a theater person. The thing that always attracted me to Wagner was the theater. The reason I go to new productions of Wagner is because I would like to be stimulated theatrically and watch interpretations of the text. And the difference between Tannhäuser and Melchior and Vickers. I just don't, I just don't have the ear, I just don't have the ear. And it takes a lot for me to criticize a performer. As someone who, for 15 years I performed for a living, and I don't understand why somebody would get in an airplane, fly someplace, get a hotel room, pay $150, $250, sit in La Scala or Bayreuth or Covent Garden, and then boo. Why would you do something like that? Maybe you saw somebody who you liked more. Was that? I mean, who cares if you like somebody more? That's very nice. You have a wonderful memory. I don't understand. You know what I mean? I don't get that.
Yeah.
I'm easily pleased, I guess, musically.
Another question from Hans Gerdes. Um, you summarized all the problems of Siegfried and Götterdämmerung, but his question is, and you mentioned that Siegfried is a bit of a cad. His question is, does Siegfried have any redeeming qualities whatsoever?
Well, Siegfried
Uh,
does. Siegfried in Siegfried ends up the great heroic agent of revolutionary change. He by making love to Brunhild, as they say themselves, we're going to laugh and we're going to love and we're going to die. It's just a terribly exciting Nietzschean expression of art as revolution. It's fabulous. Götterdämmerung is a mess as far as dramaturgically. Okay, it's a mess. It's not a mess in terms of the music. And when Rucola and a few other friends of Wagner pointed out, this doesn't make a lot this doesn't make tremendous sense. Wagner's reaction was always, listen to the orchestra. The orchestra says the whole thing. And he was entirely correct. The orchestra does say the whole thing. The modulations, the counterpoint, for the last 20 minutes of that show, the extraordinary Bach-like ability to express in counterpoint deeply, profoundly revolutionary, purgative, redemptive emotions. That makes up to me, for everything. I weep every time I see it. I really do. And look, I really appreciate your inviting me, and I enjoyed very much. I really do enjoy sharing that book with people.
Well, again, thank you very much for joining us. A lot of our members who are online right now will be in Milan, so you'll have a chance to meet them personally. They'll have a chance to meet them. So I'm looking forward to seeing.
Well, somebody has to find a pasta joint. I've been to La Scala before, and I have some friends in Milan, but I don't really know Milan as well as I would like to. And I keep on thinking that there is some joint somewhere that we can get linguine that'll knock our socks off. So it's everybody's job to find that joint and then let me know, please.
Yes, thank you for saying that, because like you, I'm not that familiar with Milan. And I've been begging any of our members who have any more familiarity with Milan to please, yes, let us know about that great pasta joint so we can all get together. Preferably something that's convenient near the Opera House.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy, I may have a word.
Yeah. So yeah, are we closing the program or?
No, I just want to thank you once again, to thank Peter for writing this book, because it is such a touching memorial to an actor and a singer who touched us all. He carried the torch, his voice was special. And I regret I didn't hear him much while he was singing. I have his records, but I wish I saw him on stage more. And you built a monument. It's the monument of love, but it's also a monument of deeper understanding, and it is very thought-provoking. I always think about inconsistencies in the libretto, and it's true, it's all in the music, and yet we ask these questions to ourselves and to others. And thank you for addressing it in such a personal and difficult form.
Thank you, Emma.
Yeah. Yes, I'd like to echo that also. I sincerely appreciate it. I'm sure all our members do, and I think it's a great tribute to Stefan, what you did. So thank you very much.
Thanks. And thank you all for coming.
So thank you, Peter. I'll be seeing you in Milan. We'll use this opportunity to thank you all our members who attended. Happy Valentine's Day again to everybody. And again, please renew your memberships for those of you who haven't. And while you're at it, please throw in a big donation while you're at it. Well, we won't say no to those. So we'll give our members a chance to sign off. And Emma and Peter, is there anything else that we need to discuss, the three of us?
Well, it was an outstanding
Yeah.
webinar, outstanding, unusual,
Yeah.
exotic, and thought-provoking. It's different.
So
Thank you again, Peter.
thank you.
We'll have a great meal somewhere in Milan.
And this presentation is or was recorded, so it will appear later on our website for any members who might have missed it or anybody else who wishes to watch it yet again. So.